This is the age verification that I grew up on. I'm an 80s kid. My parents had absolutely no idea what was going on the internet, and those screens were not gonna stop you. I'm sure it was a bunch of old people who had no clue what the internet was that figured out that they were gonna stop any kid from getting to that page.
The internet is not something that you just dump something on. It's not a big truck. It's a series of tubes.
Of course, kids shouldn't be looking at alcohol on the internet because it's so dangerous, right? Yet, this is the way we've protected kids from the dangers of the internet for 30 years. Well, now a new set of old people that also don't understand how the internet works, they've done it again, and this time it's our privacy that's at stake.
Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee enforce age verification laws.
YouTube is officially rolling out its AI-assisted age verification.
Texas law requiring any pornographic website to verify the age of anyone logging on.
The age of the viewer based on their watching habits, not just their birthday.
But submitting your ID or your credit card to verify your age is such a dangerous practice that sites like Pornhub just prefer to block half of the US from accessing their page instead of taking the risk of enabling ID verification. What if someone hacks into these databases and ties your browsing history to your ID? Also, VPNs still exist. Is it even working to protect kids? So today, I'm exploring the dangers of most of these technologies, how effective they actually are, and if there's a truly safe alternative to do age verification online. Now, I hopefully don't need to convince all of you that corn is bad for kids. 73% of teens will have been exposed to produce before they turn 18, 15% of them before the age of 10. And the extended problem is that this type of content is everywhere now. It's not just on Pornhub. It's also unmoderated comments on Instagram. It's a good percentage of Twitter. It's those TikTok ads.
Should I take off my clothes? Your wish is my command.
As a parent myself, I think if your kid is consuming this stuff, it's probably 98% the parent's fault, but I'm gonna get back to that. 30 years after the first internet browser came out, 25 years after the first attempt to regulate adult content, old guys, aka the lawmakers from around the world, finally have agreed on something. And so the new rules implemented now in 25 US states and a few countries around Europe expose websites to hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines if they don't comply with this required age check. So no more "are you over 18" sign, real verifications to keep children out. And so let's look at how these work and why they suck so much. Platforms like agechecker.net aims for honestly the dumb and obvious solution. So the system asks you to enter your date of birth, your name, your address, and runs those against public records. And if you get it right, and if you're lucky, that gets verified. If a match can't be found, then the system will request an actual photo of your ID. We start to see some problems here. At least two companies, the vendor and the platform, now have access to this data. Not to mention there's a good chance that kids know their parents' date of birth and full name and address. AgeChecker's own terms of service, which have not been updated since 2016, by the way, mentions some data retention and other third parties involved. Not only that, another company called BankCard acquired AgeChecker in 2019, along with all of its data. Again, the idea here is to avoid asking for an ID unless it's absolutely necessary, and certainly something that you don't want your online vape shop to have a copy of. Now, to their credit, platforms like AgeChecker mostly work for e-commerce, so your credit card and your shipping information, they're tied to that transaction anyway, and that's just a compromise that we all make when you just buy stuff online. Still, what this means for you is that there are at least two databases out there that can tie your name to your date of birth, to your address, to a photo of your actual ID, to your online activity. Okay, so how do we skip that? After rules rolled out in the UK in July 2025, Discord tried a new approach, a face scan. Now, face scan systems work by scanning your face to check if you're over 18 and asking you to react to some prompts to make sure that it's your actual face. So a face log, which is still your face, but no ID required. Now, the good thing about this approach is that in theory, after you're verified, your face scan information gets deleted. Now, you do have to trust the platforms that they actually do that, and they claim that they do, but yes, who knows? Now, at least there aren't any names exchanged, but that's not to say someone who really wants to find who you are with all your face information can't do that using the internet. But hey, at least kids can't get past it, right?
Brits can get around Discord's age verification thanks to Death Stranding's photo mode bypassing the measure introduced with the UK's Online Safety Act. We tried it and it works.
Age group, adult, that's a neat little hack.
It took 24 hours to get hacked by some guy on Twitter using Death Stranding's selfie mode. And the guys from PC Gamer tested it, confirmed it works. One of the largest companies betting on this approach is a startup called Yoti, which is actually used by Instagram, Meta, Spotify, OnlyFans, and Yoti also estimates age by applying AI to your face scan, and they also claim to delete all user information after the check. But because it's not using an ID, and because it can be hacked, it didn't pass the UK's highly effective bar, which means it can't be used for produce sites. Funny story, Yoti has a margin of error of a year or so, and they publish this white paper every year. OnlyFans got a fine of £1 million this year because they told regulators they had set the age requirement to 23 to be extra safe about that margin of error. But it turned out their setting was 20. Either way, platforms like Yoti also aren't completely fail-safe regarding your privacy. An investigation by Mint Secure found potential GDPR violations, excessive permissions requested, unlisted cookies, and potential user data processing by a third-party company in Spain. I'm gonna drop the link to that report and the company's response. This promise of we delete all your data is hard to fulfill, especially in this internet day and age where it can be used for so many things, like AI training. It's also perfectly normal and expected for companies to rely on third-party services for some of their databases, for their logins, or for their AI models. And each extra company is a contingency, a company that can choose not to delete your data, even though they were supposed to, or that can get hacked, or that can get acquired. These are companies that are processing your data that you probably have no idea about unless you dive really deep into those terms of service, to the privacy policy and the cookie notifications. But who even does that? Now, YouTube has come up with a much more clever system that uses AI to understand and observe a user's behavior and activity, and therefore determine how old they are. But before I tell you about that, let me tell you about Attio, an incredible CRM built with AI as its foundation and the sponsor for today's video. Attio lets you prospect and route leads with research agents, build powerful AI automations for your most complex workflows, and even get real-time intelligence during conversations with customizable templates that you can use to track exactly what you care about during the call. And the tedious task of filling in your CRM is gone. As an SDR, your focus becomes client attention, not taking notes, because that's all done automatically. Email follow-ups, automatic delivery by time zone, out of office detection, and incredibly powerful reports on the performance of your entire automation stack. We actually started testing Attio to replace our current CRM, and I was genuinely blown away. Like, it felt like what AI should be doing for us, and it starts at just $29 a month. Industry leaders like Granola and Flatfile and Replicate, they're all experiencing this next generation of CRMs. Attio pitched into the production of this video. They're offering a 15% discount for companies that sign up using the link in the description or this QR code. Okay, so YouTube. Now, YouTube started rolling a new approach last month that uses AI to determine if a user is under 18, just based on their own activity. And according to their blog post, signals include the types of video that a user is searching for, the categories of videos that they've watched, the longevity of the account, and then once this AI detects that a user is a teenager, personalized ads are disabled, some behaviors like repetitive views get blocked, and if you want to watch any video that's 18 plus, you'll be prompted to use a credit card or enter your government ID to verify. Now, YouTube can get away with this for two reasons. First, only a handful of YouTube videos are 18 plus, so there's nowhere near that 33% rule to be considered a produce site. And two, hot take, but honestly, Google, YouTube, Chrome, they already know so much about you. Adding an ID or a credit card, it's not gonna make a big difference. Now, there are other approaches out there, like checking your phone number and your cellular plan, though it's of course not fail-safe if the kids are on their parents' plan. Now, this is in part the reason why when these laws were passed in the US, Pornhub complied not by adding age verification, but by blocking access altogether. And their arguments are simple. Age verification comes with big privacy concerns, and it's not enough to protect children anyway. On the contrary, they argue that because they're not around anymore, people might end up on darker, shadier websites, their competition. Look, I'm all for stopping kids from being exposed to this crap and online predators and the stuff that you and I know exists on the internet. I'm personally more than happy to jump through the hurdles that are needed to prove that I'm an adult, if this actually really works and if my information can be guaranteed as safe. But can it? Absolutely fucking not. Like, can you imagine the hacker piñata that these age verification databases could become? This is a database that has names, IDs, addresses, photos of you, of your ID, and logs of your online activity in a site that required an 18+ verification. Like, we know all too well that most stuff leaks eventually or gets used to advertise to us. People haven't forgotten about the Cambridge Analytica cases or ads that predict your pregnancy before you even know it. The fact that these sites serve taboo content is precisely what makes this even more dangerous. This is precisely the type of internet content that requires the strictest privacy requirements. Now, one underground horror story about where this ID information can go comes from popular VR platform VRChat. Now, a user called Mace VSF began luring girls into joining his adult content room on the platform. And in order to verify their age, he asked them to share a picture of their ID.
Two things though, I do need age verification, which means you have to send me your ID. There's no question there.
Yeah, of course.
Now he had a way to blackmail.
If I can smell you near any of my friends or any of my patrons, I'm gonna make you regret ever crossing me.
But wait, hold on. All of this cat and mouse play, all this verification, is it actually helping keep kids out of these sites? Now, data about this can be very funky, in part because a lot of these laws are new, their effects are yet to be seen. We also know that studies can be swayed to serve other interests, but here's what I've found so far. Now, this study by The Guardian concluded that after the UK's Online Safety Act passed in 2023, more kids, 70% now versus 64% before, had seen porn. 27% had seen porn by the age of 11, and incredibly, 59% of them claimed to have seen it by accident, which is a rise from 38% in 2023. Now, the caveat with this report is that many of the stricter rules, like age verification mandatory, only came into effect in 2025, so we are not really seeing any data from that. In the US, in states like Louisiana, Utah, they've had these bans in effect for over 2 years now. So what does that data say? Nothing. There is not a single official study on the drop of teen access to adult content in any of these states. I mean, you can talk about traffic to these websites, which yes, of course declined, but that definitely speaks to people not feeling like sharing their IDs with Pornhub. But that also speaks to people just using alternative solutions like VPNs, which saw 1,000% increases in activity, literal 1,000% plus after the bans went in effect. If you don't know, a VPN lets your computer pretend to be somewhere else. So if you're in Texas where the ban is in place, your VPN can let you pretend you're in New Mexico and then problem solved. As long as these rules only depend on the place where you live, VPNs are just too simple of a solution to get around them. So simple that the dangerous hurdles of ID verification almost look idiotic. Now, back to the sack of old guys that run countries, it's almost like these laws were put in place either by people who deliberately want your data to be collected, or what I actually think, which is people who don't have the slightest clue how the internet works. And again, look, I'm a parent. Like my 11-year-old daughter, she has an iPod Touch, and I have put every guardrail, every parental control feature available to me on the iPod, on the home Wi-Fi. I'm happy to make a video about that if you want. And yet still, I only trust my own work like 90%. I'm sure you guys understand this stuff. Most of us are geeks in this channel, but most parents don't know how to mess around with their Wi-Fi settings other than changing the password. And plenty of my daughter's friends have their own phones, they have unrestricted access to TikTok, and there's nothing I can do about their device use outside of my house. Now, this adult content problem is one that needs to be solved universally, because as long as my daughter's friends have unguarded Wi-Fi or a VPN that can bypass the requirements, we're just back where we started. But I also know that saying this and going for no regulation sounds like me making like a pro-gun free speech argument. So no, I actually do believe that some legal protections can be put in place as long as there's solid technology behind them. A fantastic example is the Louisiana system. So the state commissioned a digital ID system called LA Wallet. It's the first digital ID system in the US. And the thing works not just for accessing the internet, but just for buying booze or getting through the airport. So if you try to access an adult website in Louisiana, you'll be prompted to enter a verification code. So you go to the app, you enter a request code, get a verification back, and you're done. What's actually happening in the background is that LA Wallet is sending this website an age validation signal, which might just be a Boolean value of true false if the user is of age. It's not sending an ID, it's not sending a name or a photo or an address, it's just the age. So if the source of the request and the destination are both anonymized, if we trust both of these entities, then this could actually work, though it's not exactly clear if they're currently anonymizing anything. It's not without caveats. I'm pretty sure some have already thought of a way to exploit this, but I also think this idea of a completely anonymous internet is a fallacy. Like, we've witnessed what the dark web can be used for, and as the internet becomes literally a human right, we can't pretend that a completely free-for-all web makes any sense at all. Now, we millennials, we've been guinea pigs to the internet, but we've learned a lesson or two about what our data can be used for. But a completely private, anonymous internet, I think, is also not the answer. We've seen what happens if we go with that direction. I think solutions can be found, and I think a PIN verification or something similar could be a small price to pay for the safety of our kids. But this only works as long as everybody gets on board. It's not just the old guys with the 90s solutions, but the websites as well. It's been 35 years, man. 35 years. Our kids shouldn't be guinea pigs to idiotic internet rules either. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out our episode on how AI could actually save your pension. We'll catch you in the next one.